The first online course that we came out with was actually called Power Up Podcasting. And this was launched in 2017. This is our first paid and premium course. And this did extremely well. You know, I've become known for podcasting, and it was pretty obvious that if we had created a podcasting course, that it would do really well. We validated that first with a beta group or a small group of people to go through the program first. But we built the online course first, and luckily it paid off. It did really well. Some things to know about this, that this was not the first online course about podcasting. In fact, I was an affiliate for several others first before finally people wanted, it was mostly feedback from the audience that said, Pat, we appreciate you serving us by pushing us to these other people. We know they're your friends and they help, but we want to learn from you. We love your style. And I think that's a really big lesson to learn, because likely the course that you're creating is not going to be the very first course on that topic. It may very well be, but if not, that shouldn't stop you, because people want to learn in the way that you teach it often, especially if you build an audience first and take an audience-driven approach. But secondly, what's beautiful about having courses already in existence is you can pay attention to, well, where are those falling short? What do people not like about those courses? And so one thing that I made sure to include into this course was this idea of, well, most of these other courses, we found that we're teaching podcasting. We're teaching the mechanics of podcasting and how to get it up there. And really kind of that was the end. It was like, you launch your podcast, yay. This course, however, took the second half of the approach, which was marketing, and added that on top of it. So not only are you going to create your podcast, you're also going to now know how to market it and get it out there, which is what every podcaster wants. And that was our big USP, or unique selling proposition. Since this course was launched, to date, 3,764 students have gone through it, which is so great, right? Those are students that I could have, pushed on to other people, but now they're in our ecosystem. And many of those students have gone on to purchase other courses that we have in our ecosystem now, which is really great. And in total, we've generated over $2 million in sales from this one single course since 2017. So it was really cool. And we learned a lot of lessons there, but I kind of wanted to take you into the approach a little bit, right? And here are some of the amazing students that have come across and some of the podcasts that they've made too. When we launched this publicly for the first time, right? We took some of these founding students who were here, as you can see, and we brought them on the podcast, right? So we have a channel, a podcast. It could be a YouTube channel, it could be a blog, but you'll hear me say this time and time again. Your best marketing are the stories of your successful students, right? This is Donald Miller and Story Brand, right up his alley. Tell stories of your successful students to sell your course. And this is why a beta or a founders group is great, because there's no expectation that people have already taken it. So people who want first access will get into it, but those people become the testimonials and success stories. But instead of just a testimonial on a sales page, for example, we went all in and brought 3 people onto the podcast, Dr. B, Dr. Shannon Irvin, and Carrie and Rob from Disney Travel Secrets, to come on the podcast to talk about their podcast. I didn't bring them on to say, hey, Dr. B, tell me why Power Up Podcasting is the most amazing course you ever took. That's not the approach that we took. We took the approach of, tell us why you wanted to start a podcast in the first place. And she told her story and the why, and many people could connect with that why. Then I asked, well, what were the biggest challenges and struggles? Like, why did it take you so long? Oh, and Dr. B said, well, I was too afraid of technology. Dr. Shannon Irvin's sort of objection was, well, it's just going to take too much time. And Rob and Carrie have travel agency. They didn't think a podcast would actually do a lot for their business, but they took the course and they did really well. And then I asked, okay, well, what is life like now that you have a podcast? And Dr. B told some amazing stories about how she's now helping people around the world, 33 different countries at the time I interviewed her here, just a few months after she started her show, and how she's helping people with ADHD. Dr. Shannon Irvin was able to take her offline practice and bring it online and see more revenue. And Carrie and Rob from Disney Travel Secrets, who said, I don't know if this is going to really be beneficial for us, increased their business by 348%. And we unpacked that story. But of course, naturally, through just unpacking those heroes' journeys that they've had, they of course mention what helped them along the way. Oh, Pat, it was your course, Power Up Podcasting. You made the tech so easy. Or, wow, I didn't think this would work, but your marketing that you put behind this helped us get this in front of the right people. So now people who listen to this are A, now inspired, B, can go, wow, there are people like me who've done this and look at what's happened to them now. And then they go, C, all right, where do I buy, right? This one episode has accounted, or during that launch sequence, accounted for over $150,000 in sales. We tracked it, but that's amazing because we didn't have to get aggressive. I'm not a great copywriter, but I'm great at uncovering the stories and using that as the marketing juice, right? And so this is what's really awesome about the journey of Power Up Podcasting, right? But what's really interesting is that, with an online course, we found that, there were a lot of people who purchased the course who, wanted additional help or needed additional help. And people who didn't purchase the digital course because they were like, oh, well, I'm not really great at self-paced stuff, so I might need some additional help. And what's really cool about Teachable is they now have, like a coaching ability within there, and that wasn't available back then. But here's what I did. When people needed more help, we created something called the Fast Track Workshop. And this was an in-person training, taking the same exact knowledge and stuff that was in the pre-recorded course and pulling it out into a 2-day all-in immersive event. It's the same content, and we charged $3,500 per ticket, right? Flying people to San Diego and treating them well with nice dinners, but also really getting the work done, all that work done in 2 days. And people really enjoyed that. This was our first one that was in June of 2019, pre-pandemic, and it was a lot of fun. We were going to do a lot more, but of course we couldn't because of what had happened in 2020. But that really validated that, wow, there were people who, also like these sort of in-person stuff, which is pretty cool. Now, the live in-person training stuff is really great, right? 100% completion rates. Everybody who showed up got the work done and launched their podcast. Incredible friendships and experience were made. Hands-on training was cool. However, it was a very tiring 2 days, right? It almost made me go, wow, this is making me appreciate the pre-recorded course much, much more, because with a Teachable course, right, you just create the course once and you can rinse and repeat, and all you have to do is just bring more people into the course versus renting out of space and creating slides for that particular moment and those people and working with them in real time. It was tiring. There's a lot of coordination required, and a lot of people who just can't make it, obviously, or afford the cost. There are going to be people who would love to learn from you in person, but just can't make it. So we were like, okay, 2020 rolls around. We can't do the live in-person stuff anymore, which are high ticket items. And again, it doesn't really serve as many people. The DIY course was still rolling, still doing very well, but might there be like a happy medium? So we decided to try something different. Again, this is the Power Up Podcasting course. We wanted to create something like a boot camp. So an online sort of hybrid of the in-person stuff, but the pre-recorded stuff. And what was really cool was this cohort-based course. It was group training. This was a 6 to 8 week program. And what was nice about this is it gave controlled access, right? It wasn't like all in access for 2 days. It was during these times on Monday and during these times on Thursday, let's come together. You can ask questions during office hours, and there's co-working time available to get things done together, which is cool. But the beauty of this is people can learn from each other, right? Which is really neat. So we did this, and it was really, really successful. And I think a lot of people now are more attuned to this idea of learning online in this style with cohort-based. But again, the DIY course was still serving those people who could do it on their own, which is really interesting. So with the success of that, and with a new course in mind, we wanted to go, okay, we have this new course idea. It's actually a little meta here because it's an online course about creating online courses. In a very similar way, people were asking us, Pat, you have now 7 paid courses in your library. Give us the secret. How do you create these things so quickly? How do you actually create them and sell them? And we had all this knowledge from all the experience that we've had, right? And we said, okay, well, we could create a DIY course just on Teachable right off the bat and sell that thing. But what if we took the reverse approach that we did with the Power Up Podcasting one and actually start with a cohort-based sort of version of this to do a couple things, to validate the demand for it, right? To pre-sell just for those people who really wanted this information now, and we saw that there was demand, but we wanted to validate it. And we pre-sell this thing and see if we can get people in it, knowing that it would force us to actually create the curriculum and structure it in a way for these people who had previously just paid, and show up for them and ask them questions about, okay, well, where are you not getting enough information, or what's a struggle or challenge for you right now? So that the idea being, we do this as the beta launch of the content. We walk people through the curriculum. We're forced to create it, and we want to get them results. The hypothesis being, okay, well, if that's the beta launch, we create the course with those students, and at the end, we'll now have these amazing testimonials and stories from people who have succeeded there to then bring into the pre-recorded Teachable version of the course and then go sort of big with it right off the bat. And so that was the idea. So that's exactly the approach we took. So we created Heroic Online Courses Bootcamp. We had, it was a 6-week program. We created the structure for it. $12.99. We just were like, okay, well, this is, we don't want to give this away for free, but we want to validate it and make sure people are like, okay, yes, I will pay for my dollars to vote that this is something I want. And what was really cool was we had a lot of things like templates and other things to help people through this process that we kind of just created on our own that we now restructured to be able to share with people through this course. So this is one of those templates, for example. It's the ability for you to, within a sheet or spreadsheet, to actually outline your course. And we have a specific process of making it easy to outline a course, which I'll share in just a moment. But what's really cool about this is you can get it to a point where you can actually have now every single lesson and every single module sort of laid out. And that becomes essentially your production sheet, right? Where, okay, lesson this needs this video, and this is what it needs for this lesson. Boom, done. Let's check it off. Let's move down. By the way, since you're here, if you'd like to get access to this, this is in our course, Heroic Online Courses, but I'd love to give it to you for free since you're here and watching live right now. If you go to smartpassiveincome.com/template, you are able to download this, make a copy for yourself, and you can use it. There's some samples in there so you can see how to use it. You can restructure it any which way you want. But I wanted to make sure you had that because this particular sheet here is what we used after or during the course creation process. So this is what this will end up looking like, right? You have the modules on the left-hand side. You see welcome students, module 1, module 2, and then underneath of each of those, you'll see the lessons. This is the sheet we use to create the course. And what's really cool about this is you see a column there for progress. So, has it been outlined yet? Yes or no? Has it been scripted? Has it been filmed? Has it been edited? And then if you work with a team, for example, for production, they can use this as well. And you can put notes and lessons in there. And this is what we use to create the calendar for production of the course, which is really neat. But you still need to figure out, okay, well, what are these modules and lessons going to be? And I wanted to give you the 3-part brain dump strategy that we use. This is, again, taught in Heroic Online Courses, but I'm going to go over it in a high level. And this is actually a process that you can use to create anything. I've used the same process to outline and create my books. I've used this for all of our online courses. I've even used this for planning how to design this office. I even use this to plan vacations with my family. So this is the 3-part brain dump strategy to go from, okay, I know I want to create this course about something, but what do we put inside and what do we share with our audience? Well, the first part is dump. The second part is lump. And then the third part is jump. So let me go over each of these in the dump, lump, jump strategy for you really quick. Number 1 is take a huge dump. And I know, anyway, you need Post-it notes and you take all the information in your brain in no particular order and just create a 1-hour time block in your calendar to just dump everything on a table or a wall or a whiteboard, wherever you might be, all ideas, no order, just get creative, bad ideas, good ideas, anything that comes to mind to go from where a person is at in your target audience, right, to where they want to go, right? What's the transformation or the promise that you're offering, right? That's what you're selling. You're not selling an online course. You're selling the transformation that online course gives, right? People don't wake up in the morning and go, yeah, I want an online course today. They want the result of the online course you're offering. So list and brain dump everything. 1 idea per Post-it note. I really, really, really recommend Post-it notes rather than a notepad or even an online version of this because there's just something about pen to paper and with Post-it notes, which I always have some close by. What's really neat is 1 idea per paper. You can then move on to number 2. So after that 1 hour sort of brain dump, if you go for an hour, it might not take that long. Anything and everything on the table just looks like a sea of just spew. Well, now you go into the second step, which is to lump, which means you take all these Post-it notes that are sort of messy and you cluster them together. You lump them together into little groups. Again, in no particular order, you just go, oh, well, here's all the tech things. I'm going to move all the tech things. And this is why Post-it notes are great because you can pick them up and move them around. And I'm going to put all those over here. Oh, wow, here's all the mindset stuff that just came across my mind as I was brain dumping. Okay, let's pile all these together since those seem to be very similar. And what ends up happening when you do this is magically these groups start to form. You start to see maybe there's some holes. Maybe you start to see there's a lot of duplicates. Maybe you start to see that there's some that don't actually belong. And so you can remove those, make sure you recycle your Post-it notes. And then you start to see these little clusters. And what's cool is these clusters become the modules of your course just magically right in front of you. And this is what we did for Heroic Online Courses, for Power of Podcasting, all of our courses, my books, my even individual blog posts. It works. The third step then is to jump them around, right? Now that you have the clusters and the modules, first take all the modules and put them in the right order. So you might need to go, okay, before we talk about any of this, we need to talk about the mindset stuff first. So that's going to be module number 1. Okay, module number 2 now. Okay, well, we need to get equipment next. So that'll all be module 2. And then, okay, well, now we need to come up with the show and everything related to the podcast and the ideas and the content. Let's make that module 3. And now you have order to those. And then within each of those clusters, you now can put order to each of those Post-it notes. And now you have literally this right in front of you that you could transfer onto, and now you have your production calendar for your course. This is how we filmed and created Heroic Online Courses, which is this new course that we just launched last week, in 1 week, all in 1 week, to actually get it ready for the cohort and whatnot, which is pretty cool. The whole thing in 1 week, including filming. Because the filming part of it came as a result of, well, it actually came in 2 phases. We didn't have to do this, but we wanted to because maybe we do a little bit too much sometimes. But we went from course outline and structure to the start of the first class, right, with that cohort-based course, right? And it was already ready. We already knew the roadmap going forward. And what was really cool about doing it with the students in a more cohort fashion to start during that validation process and working with those founder students is that based on the questions or where the struggles were, we could add in new lessons on the go. So that by the time this ended and we had some results, we now could, take those recordings and put them into this Teachable course. Now, we didn't take the recordings, although many people do that, which is the easiest way. But we decided to, we're gonna hire a videographer to come in, and in 2 days we're gonna re-record everything, which actually was really nice because I had just taught it live, and now I can make it a lot more streamlined, right? These videos are now, instead of 1.5 hour videos that are chopped up based on the structure, now they're all individually recorded and sort of could live on their own as 5 to 10 minute videos. But this speeds up the entire process so much. And we now have a Teachable course on this, which was just launched, and it went very, very well. Here it is here. Now, one thing I want to share with you when it comes to the marketing of this is your email sequence. Most of our sales, 99% of our sales, are driven through email. So building an email list, and perhaps even before you have your course ready, you are building a wait list for it. However means you have to start to get in front of people, whether that's online by guest podcasting on other websites, or perhaps you've spent some time building out some content platforms on YouTube or a podcast or a blog for SEO. You want to build an email list. It's so much easier to promote a course when you already have people who are interested in that transformation, right? But what I want to share with you here is the actual email sequences that we use after we launch a program. So when we launched this in the pre-recorded version just recently, we use this exact email structure to sell this thing. And I want to share this with you because it works really, really well. We use this for all of our courses when we launch them. So this is after you launch, here are 5 days worth of emails to send out for you. Obviously, you're going to have the launch email. It's very important that when you have this launch email, you mention what exactly is this thing. Like, you want to be very clear with who it's for, what they get on the other end of it, the promise of it. And this is where you can start to sort of mention, and again, we did this. It's like, oh, we already ran people through this content, and here are some of the success stories that have come out of it that we want to share with you. Now there's more proof behind the fact that this works. If you don't have that, well, there's a couple ways to go about it. You could run a beta program first, letting people know this is the first time you're getting people through it. So there's no expectation that somebody has gone through it before, but they're sort of like the tester users. And then you can get some results from them and get some testimonials from there. But if you want to simplify it even more, if you have this idea of a structure of content and curriculum that you want a person to go through, find one person and help them get a result. And yes, you're going to be working with them a little bit more closely. No, it's not scalable, but it's just one person. Yes, but that'll force you to figure it out for that one person, to find that one person, of course, but then that one person becomes the success story and the person who you could use as storytelling and marketing as you launch this publicly. So getting one person in there to go through it is really, really, really amazing. What's also interesting about that process is it also helps validate that you actually like doing this and teaching people. I know some students of mine who have done this one result strategy, and they get a person a result and they're like, I didn't like that. I'm so glad I didn't create a course about that right now, because I actually, it was a little bit of a struggle for me. I think I have more energy here instead. And then they can test that one instead. So anyway, if you're looking for testimonials to include in your program, getting one person, one result, or running a founders group or a cohort, just like we did, in order to then lead into the more public and wide launch of your pre-recorded course, then that's something you can do. And then, of course, in every email, you want to make sure you have a call to action, right? So the launch email is pretty self-explanatory. Here it is. Here's what it's going to do for you. And here's where you go. On day 2, oftentimes people are now wondering, well, how do I know if this is real, right? So you're saying all these great things. Maybe you are an amazing copywriter, and you're saying all the right things to convince a person that this is something that they might need, but they're still going to go, well, how do I know this is real, right? And this is where proof comes into play, and a lot of these success stories can come out and come back to show that, okay, somebody has run through this before. There's other ways to show proof. Perhaps you have gone through the process yourself, and you're now wanting to share it with others, and you getting really open and vulnerable even with how this process has helped you and the struggles, and really connecting with people there. That'll show that you are somebody who knows what a person on the other end is going through, and they'll be more likely to listen. This is where, again, story comes into play, and this is for the more, is it the right side or left side? I can't remember which side of the brain, but there's one side of the brain that responds really well to the storytelling and the emotion and the before and after and all this kind of stuff. If you have any social proof to go along with this in terms of places that you've been featured or any nice numbers that you could share or anything like that, this is, again, how do we convince a person that, okay, yes, I'm saying all the right things, but how do I know this is real? You want to answer that question here in day 2. Again, with a call to action to go to your sales page. Day 3, call people out on their objections. You're going to hear me talk about this time and time again, but objections are really important for you to understand. So no matter what transformation you're offering your audience, there are going to be stories that people tell themselves in their head when they come across this solution of yours that are going to convince them that this is not what they need right now. And these stories you need to uncover, you need to display, and you need to have a rebuttal for them. I have this sort of formula called the Oreo strategy: the objection, rebuttal, example, outcome. Oreo: objection, rebuttal, example, outcome. Oreos are great. And what's cool about this is when you find an objection, right? When you find an objection, you're able to hit it on its head and go, no, that's actually not correct. And here's why, and here's an example. So for example, on the podcasting course, right, a big objection is, well, I need a large audience in order, I need to be podcasting in a really large niche to make this worth my time and worth it. Well, okay, that's the objection. A person's telling themselves that story, but I know it's not true. And my rebuttal is, no, here's an example. Phil Lichenberger, who created a podcast called Scanner School, which is in the electronic space, those little handheld radio scanners. He created a podcast just for people who are interested in those. And then I show examples and pictures of how he's become sort of like an authority in the space. Companies are reaching out to him. He's got super fans now. So that basically just crushes a person's objection and allows them to go, wow, okay, yeah, I guess I was wrong. I'm in, right? And doing that with 3 to 5 objections is really, really key. How do you know what these objections are? You can ask around. Oh, what has stopped you from starting your podcast? What has stopped you from creating your online course? Day 4, the day 4 email. And you might be like, are all these emails going out daily? Yes, they are. Because if you know that you have something that could serve somebody, and that can be confirmed through the helping one person or helping a beta group get results, then it's almost like your obligation to make sure, your responsibility to make sure that you're letting people know in all the right ways to help them understand that this is the cure for their struggle or challenge, right? It's really important. And this is where day 4 comes into play, because the trouble with marketing is that if there is not a reason to make a decision now, people aren't going to make a decision now, right? People can always say, oh, well, I'll get that next time, or I'll put it off till later, or, it's not that urgent right now. We need to inject urgency and scarcity or scourgency into the marketing in some way. And this is the beauty of running a live launch and a public launch, is you can say, hey, the doors are open now, but the doors are going to close soon. Another way to inject scarcity would be a limited number or limited quantity, which is a little bit more difficult to do with a digital course, because of course, the courses can just be sort of, open all the time for everybody. However, you can limit it. And this is what we did. We said, okay, the doors are going to close. Why? Because we want to work closely with this group of students. So make sure you get in by this date, because we're going to go through this together, and you're going to have access to office hours with me and all this other stuff. And by having people understand that, okay, well, it's either a yes or no right now that I have to make, then that's good, right? It's good if it's a no, because that means they made a decision. It's good if it's a yes, obviously, because that means they made a decision. The worst thing you want is a person to read an email and go, no, I don't know, I'll come back to it later. We need to get people to make a decision now. And this is some really good copy that I once saw in an email is somebody who once said, just tell people to make a decision, even if it's no, right? So I don't want you to have any regrets after this launch is over. So if you're in, awesome. If not, no worries. Don't have any regrets with whichever decision you make, but you only have until this date or this time to get access to the course or to get access to these bonuses or whatever the scarcity thing might be, right? Another way to inject some scarcity or urgency might be related to the actual problem or challenge itself. You can amplify that problem a little bit, right? You got to be careful about doing that though, because you can play on people's fears and do it in a way that's maybe not necessarily ethical. It's like, hey, get this weight loss program because if you don't, you're going to die. It's like, you don't want to like take that approach, and that's just not cool. But you might say something like, no, hey, every day people are looking for information that you have that you are yet to share. And every day a person has an opportunity to go find somebody else. But you know that you are the person to share this with people, and people are looking for you and you're not there yet. So let's make a decision now so that nobody else slips through and you can serve them, right? Like, so that's an example of how to do it maybe more gracefully. And then finally here is day 5. And yes, 3 emails on day 5. You might be like, Pat, that's a lot. What is also a lot is the fact that 80% of our sales come on the last day. It's mind-boggling. And this is, again, the power of having like an end date or a deadline. But actually in this recent launch, 75% of our sales came on the last day, which is ridiculous. It, number one, just shows us as human beings, like, yeah, we all love to wait till the last minute to make these purchase decisions, right? But at the same time, you do need to have these emails go out. So these emails are very short. Day 5, good morning, last chance. Doors close, at 9 p.m. tonight or at midnight tonight. Just wanted to give you one more chance to get in. Here are some other questions that have come in that I can answer for you really quick, right? Do I get lifetime access to whatever questions people are asking, you can pop in there. Day 5 at noon. This is optional, but it works really well. I'll describe this a little bit more, but the subject line of this video is, I recorded this video just for you. Wow, just for me? Okay, so I'll describe that email in just a minute because it's a very powerful. Credit to Ramit Sethi, who I'm basically on his email list to learn from him, and he did the same thing to me. So like I asked him, I was like, can I use that strategy because it's really good, and can I share that with others because it's so powerful? He said, sure. And then finally, the final call, literally 6 hours remaining, last final call, last chance to get in XYZ. Very simple. So what is this day 5 noon email? This is an email that includes a link to an unlisted YouTube video that you film that is for them, but for them being them, but like not the individual John or Jonah or Sally or Rita or whoever's on the other end. You record it for the person who this is for, who has yet to make that decision. And it's a heartfelt, just raw, it's not highly produced. Like in this one here, I was at a conference and I was just walking down the street filming this, and I popped it on YouTube. And essentially, you want it to be personable. You want to say you, not you guys, because you want it to feel like it's just for them. Again, it is just for them, but it's for them being everybody who has yet to make a purchase, who this is for, and you want to basically reshare who this is for, what it's going to do for them, and just reiterate the benefits of it, right? And the reason why you want to say you, because if like the difference between, for everybody watching right now, if say, hey, you guys, welcome to the podcast, or hey, you guys, I just want to let you know we have one final chance to get in, versus, hey, so I know you've been interested in building an online course, and I just want to tell you a little bit more about Heroic Online Courses, because I really do feel like it's the right course for you if you're interested in doing this efficiently and with some marketing juice behind it too. Yes, there's, tens, dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of people who might see this, but they're not watching it all together in the same room. They're watching it usually on their device and in a very personal moment. So talk to them as if it's just one-on-one. Make it short, 2 minutes or less, unlisted, hosted on YouTube. So you don't need to worry about, paying for hosting or anything. Just get the YouTube video unlisted link, and you pop that in the email and just say, hey, I recorded this short video for you. Click the link below. I just wanted to share something with you, right? And that's it. Okay. Now people are coming into the course. This is Heroic Online Courses, and we've had several people come through, and it's been really amazing, right? So we've now basically sold this twice. We've sold it once as a cohort to validate it and get the course material really fine-tuned and get some testimonials and stories coming out of it. And now we have a digital version of the course on Teachable, which we really love, and now can be injected into our systems, into our email marketing, and we can have now another course to go from one course that a person might take to another, right? If a person, for example, comes in and builds their online business through one of my courses, I can then feed them this new course and say, hey, your audience may be interested in online courses. Check out Heroic Online Courses, right? What you're seeing right now is something I do in every single one of my courses, and it's worked really, really well for helping with retention and completion and all this kind of stuff. And this is in the Welcome, Watch This First video. That's always the first lesson that people watch. It's literally titled Welcome, Watch This First. And it's a quick overview of what people are going to get out of this. Again, I'm almost reselling the course at that point because they're in there now. I want to kind of get them excited again. I talk a little bit about Teachable. Hey, there'll be a link at the top to continue to move on to the next lesson. If you have any, if you get lost on the left-hand side, you'll see this row of where you're at, and you can navigate your way through. And if you have any questions, reach out to support. But before you go and move on to the next lesson, I want you to do one thing for me. I want you to comment below and tell me that you're committed. So use the words "I'm committed" in the comment section below to tell me that you're committed to this process of creating an online course for you, not for me, but for you. Or I'm committed to starting a podcast, or committed to, my email list building, whatever it might be. And literally people go, I'm committed, and ready for this. Yes. And it's so cool because this is almost like a way to get people to almost pledge that they're doing this, right? It gets them really excited about it. It's a really quick, small little tactic, but I'd highly recommend you do this in your first lesson because it really matters. And I found like, it's really cool also for new people who come in, right? Like if you were to sign up for Heroic Online Courses today, for example, and you come in here and you watch the welcome video, you come in here and you see people who are already doing it too. And that makes you feel like you're not alone in this process, which is really important too. So I'd highly recommend doing that. I could have created this presentation to go, okay, here's step one, what we did. Here's step two, what we did. Everything as far as step-by-step A to Z kind of stuff is actually in Heroic Online Courses. And there's so much to talk about that I wanted to include only the most important things for you today. So it might feel like I'm jumping around, but I talked about email and the email sequence. We're talking about, well, how do we onboard people into the course? We talked about the cohort. I just wanted to talk about these things that perhaps you haven't really heard anywhere else, so I can show you. And perhaps if you're interested in getting into Heroic Online Courses, cool. If not, no worries. Use this information either way. But the last thing I want to share is just the power, again, and I've mentioned this before, is the power of your student success stories, right? Pulling out their objections and really showcasing them. Make them the hero of the story to sell your thing, right? And case in point, this is Brenda, again, from Outdoor Photography School. She's one of our students. She's actually taken a couple of our cohorts. She's really amazing. And then she created her own course, and it's actually working really well. And she has a really amazing course called Compose with Clarity. She now has a podcast as a result of one of our courses. And inherently, this does a couple things. Number one, it shows people that other people have taken the course before. Number two, it shows that other people have completed it and have gotten results. But number three, as you pull these stories out, always remember to bring in, well, what were the challenges and the struggles, right? A big challenge for a lot of people creating online courses is, well, they've never sold something before, and it feels maybe a little bit icky to do that. You might be feeling like, well, people are going to hate you for that. But there are certain ways to go about, doing this in a way where people will thank you. And again, now that Brenda has her course, like people are thanking her for the fact that it's weird. It's like you can get thanked, but you're also making a lot of money at the same time, right? By serving people. And that's how business and marketing in general, and the internet, I feel, should be done. It's in a way where we all serve each other, right? When you consider it, it's like your earnings should be a byproduct of how well you serve your audience. This is sort of at a high level a lot of the things that we injected into this campaign that worked really, really well. And I would highly recommend even pulling one or two of these things out for yourself as you begin to create your course too.